Hello and welcome to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This is Heavy as the Crown. I'm your host, Vector Lynn. And surprise, surprise, guess who's not here again? That's right, Nicole Nameless. She's not going to give me her last name. I'm not going to say it. This week, to start off March, which, if you did not know, was International Women's History Month, we are showcasing the best women in rock and metal. But I know I like running the show. I know I'm the better host out of the two of us, but it feels wrong to start this episode off without Nicole. So whenever she gets here, we can start. But in the meantime, I am being told by the higher ups that we have a special interview for you today to play. It is an interview that one of our digital marketing members, Kyle Pepitone, did with the keyboardist and composer of the progressive metal band Dream Theater, Jordan Rudess. And here we go with that.
Hello all, and welcome to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. My name is Kyle Pepitone, and today I have a special interview for you. Joined with me today is legendary keyboardist of Dream Theater, Jordan Rudess. Good morning, or whatever time of day this airs. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We're up in, where are we today? I just forgot. We're up in Canada today.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
So having a nice time up here. It's snowing nonstop.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get that spring weather soon enough.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Can't come soon enough at this point.
Yeah, I know. But to start off, you recently, as a band, released your 15th studio album, A View from the Top of the World. And after 15 studio albums, how does your writing process change, just individually or as a band, between each album to keep the ideas fresh?
Fresh, yeah. Well, one thing is that we all are kind of good students and we learn a lot from album to album. Just in things like techniques to make our instruments sound better. There's always new developments in technology, which not only can inspire us, but also can kind of move us in a certain direction and make things, again, sound better. We're, each individually into our craft so that, we're always practicing and learning more and incorporating different ideas and stylistic things into our own playing. And so that kind of learning process, or that growing with time, really gives us a pretty cool way to enter into each album process with more information.
Right.
And there's really no shortage of inspiration because music is our lives and we kind of,
Right.
Live and breathe music. And so, with that, plus everything that we've learned from just our normal path from one album to the next, kind of sets us up for, a positive experience.
Right, of course. And this is your first studio album since the start of the pandemic. And as we've seen throughout the past 2 years or so, a lot of bands have been releasing their pandemic albums. Like, we wrote this inspired by recent events. Is this that album for you? Or is this something entirely different?
This album was not really a response conceptually or otherwise to COVID and what was going on. If anything, the whole situation just kind of made us like hungry to like get together and to go make music and to be creative and do our thing. Personally, when I was sitting at home and we were all locked down, I created an album, piano music, that really was a response to the times and the way I was feeling, and trying to send out kind of like a healing, message. That album is A Chapter in Time, but A View from the Top of the World was kind of an all-out Dream Theater record. It's just our creativity at the time.
Okay. And with that being said, the name of the album, A View from the Top of the World, what does that mean? What is that view from the top of the world? What are you seeing, if it is you who is taking that view?
Yeah. Well, John Petrucci came up with that title. He was working on one of our big epic song, and he kind of had this idea, this feeling about, this thought that he followed through with about people who do amazing things and, just incredibly challenging adventures, physical things, mental things. And the song kind of like describes that idea of just like, this more outrageous view of how to, be alive on the planet and do incredible things, that people do, that some of us never do. So I think that's kind of like what we're describing, and it just resonated with all of us. That's kind of a cool title. It was an interesting idea to go down that path.
Right. And speaking of incredible things people do, on this album itself, you have been nominated as a band for your third Grammy for Best Metal Performance for your song "The Alien." Now, for me at least, the term alien conjures up pictures like xenomorph or things non-human and otherworldly, except for this song. Listening through it with the lyrics such as terraform a new world, survival for mankind, and newfound world, here we are, it almost seems like when you all wrote this song, it seems like us as the human race are going to soon become the aliens. Is this what you intend? Like, what is the meaning behind these lyrics?
It's a great question. I didn't write them. Hey, James, you got a minute to say that? Hold on, he's right here. The writer is here. You got a minute to tell him the meaning behind the alien lyrics? Yeah, I'm going to let the writer of the lyrics tell you.
Awesome, thank you.
Right. All right, tell him, because he's wondering.
About an alien, see ya.
All right, he's done?
No. Okay, so I was inspired by, I watched a podcast with Joe Rogan.
Right.
And he had Elon Musk on. And they were talking about interplanetary discovery, talking about Mars, terraforming Mars, eventually the human race wanting to be, because technology will exponentially grow.
Right.
And so eventually we need to cultivate other planets because sooner or later we're going to outgrow this one. So I was just massively inspired by it. It was a 3-hour podcast.
Oh, wow.
And I started taking jot notes down. I wrote down what was very interesting to me, and then I put the lyrics together. But basically, that's it. It's about, the infinite, eternity of humankind and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah,
So
especially now.
that's how it came about, and that's the meaning behind it. Is just that we need to continue. We need to look beyond our planet, because eventually we will have exhausted all our resources and space.
Exactly. Yeah. I listening through it, I'm like, I bet exactly this is what it's about. And lo and behold, I'm right.
Right
So
on.
There you go.
That's really good. That is amazing. And once again, congratulations on the Grammy nomination.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Man,
Thanks for
okay,
coming
talk
in.
to you.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you so
See
much
that?
for that.
Right? Absolutely.
And as we are currently speaking, you're on tour, you're on the road, ready to go to the next gig. And this has been the first tour you're currently on since the other one, or since all live shows got shut down. And so how does it feel again to be currently, like in this moment, back on the road playing again? Is there any difference in before COVID versus now, or is it just great to just be out there again?
It is great to be out playing music again. It's different because, just the world is in such a strange place. And I guess I didn't really think that it was even going to happen, just because everything is so messed up, but we managed to get ourselves on the road and to set rules and protocols. And, here we are up in Canada. So like the thing is happening, and everybody, knock on wood, somewhere is, healthy, and we're doing fine. Just enjoying playing music and taking one day at a time, really. Yeah.
And one thing you did mention in another interview you did is that one of the last shows you did before everything got shut down was a show with Deep Purple, where you did a majority of the sounds using an iOS and iPad. As an avid iOS fan, how do you, in this rapidly evolving world, how do you go about learning different tricks about technology in order to incorporate it into your musical career?
Well, I've always been really into technology. I even have a technology company that releases software instruments. It's called Wisdom Music, and I do a lot of partnering and consulting with, companies making cool, technology instruments. So my eyes are very wide open to all that kind of stuff, and people do come to me, with a lot of ideas as well. So.
Right.
Big part of my life is really spent kind of looking at interesting, creative, expressive musical technology, which is always awesome. And then I tend to use it in our shows. Like one of the things I'm doing in our show every night is playing what sounds like a cello solo on my app, which is called GeoShred, which is at this point an iOS only application. It's based on called physical modeling, which was developed at Stanford University by one of my partners, whose name is Julius Smith.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And with working in the Dream Theater, working with all this technology and stuff, you're also part of another band, a supergroup, along with John Petrucci, called the Liquid Tension Experiment. How is the work dynamic different between Dream Theater and Liquid Tension Experiment, and how do the two complement each other?
Liquid Tension was actually the group I was in before Dream Theater.
Right.
So I didn't join Dream Theater back in the earlier days. I joined Liquid Tension Experiment.
Right.
And that's always been an interesting blend of musicians and people that is very kind of open to all of our ideas. And it was like the main difference between the two is that, Dream Theater's, when I joined, was already an established kind of entity with a fairly, not fixed, but I guess I could say set genre around them. They've released a lot of music. So, the idea of coming in and doing something absolutely different because there were new members or whatever, that was not really what that was about. Although certainly I'm a composer in Dream Theater,
right,
and write a lot of stuff. But Liquid Tension was, first of all, doesn't have any vocals. It's all instrumental, and it's just a real combination of the personalities. It's almost like, imagine like a soup, mix it up, mix all our ideas up, and out it comes, and that's it. So even though they're similar members and everything, it really is coming from a different place.
Okay.
There was no history there to kind of almost dictate which direction to go in.
Right. And speaking of mixing this soup and getting what comes out of it, a big thing you mentioned on an interview with Loudwire where you played your favorite keyboard tracks is when you were studying for Juilliard, you started improvising while you were playing the Bach Prelude in C, and your teacher is just like, no, we don't do that. Yet you still do a mix of improvisation and pen and paper when crafting the music for Dream Theater. Are there pros and cons to each method, and are there specific instances in which you would use one over the other?
Well, I think it was really valuable that I learned how to pay attention to the written page, and a lot of information there from all the great classical composers, from anybody who can write music and actually get it in front of you to gather. It's like, for me, it's a quick way to kind of literally get information, from a composer. I have a good ear, I could do that as well, but seeing it on the page is just it's pretty unique. So when I come into what I do these days, I still use, believe it or not, pencil and paper to write down my ideas and even to work things out. And then, sometimes once it's written, sometimes I'll just be sketching because, as you said, a lot of the composition can kind of come out of just kind of improvising the moment and just, letting things happen. So it's a real blend for me, I could understand looking back why the teacher was like, hey, don't do that. Just learn how to read the music and interpret Bach or Chopin or Debussy for what it is, because there's so many markings on the page that can be interpreted. But at the same time, on a maybe perhaps a higher level, being able to put your own input to something and to be able to, have another kind of like level of creativity is, I think that's even better, because think about like Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven, and you read about them, and those guys, they weren't like so locked into the page. They were always improvising, and that was part of their world. It's just these days in the classical space that they got a little tighter.
Right. So, since we're in such a world that is very heavily focused on streaming and stuff, when there's so many other different avenues of getting new music, why is college radio still an important way to discover music, and why is it important not just to listeners but also to an artist and their career?
Well, I mean, college radio has always been kind of, had the independence and the flexibility to be cutting edge,
right,
and turn people to things that you wouldn't necessarily, hear about, know about. So, there's definitely, at least, especially in my history, because college radio played an important part in my development as a musician, because I don't know, you probably don't know, but I used to go around when I got out of Juilliard. I went around to some of the college radio stations and would do like midnight, like electronic music concerts live, and
right,
just cool things that you can do because you have the flexibility and you have the inspiration of young people who are into music and really excited about it, that aren't having to pay attention to any particular rules, and just kind of going for it. So it's a beautiful thing. Let's hope it it remains strong, and it would be really, it's important, I think.
Exactly. And even though there is like so much emphasis on streaming services and how convenient they are, there's still a rise in the popularity, or a revival in the popularity of vinyl. Why do you think so many people are going back to older forms of music when streaming service is just such a convenience?
Yeah. I mean, there is something really nice about holding that physical product in your hand, and there's nothing like that. I mean, I would say personally, I use digital things to hear my music. I'll be on Apple Music, whatever, and that's generally the way I do it. I don't even have a working turntable at home. But I went to a hotel the other day, actually in, I guess it was like Minnesota or somewhere like that, and they had a turntable in the room with a bunch of vinyl. First thing I did is I went over to the vinyl. I put one on. I was like, wow, this is so cool. So, I mean, it's nostalgic. I grew up with it. Right, so that was how I listened to music, was on vinyl. So for me, it's kind of, maybe it's a little bit different than for other people who didn't grow up with it.
So one final question. In addition to the studio album, you've also been putting out the demo albums with unreleased music and live music as well, called the Lost But Not Forgotten Archives. What does this mean to you, and what is it like exploring those songs again?
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's so great to have our record company behind us to really put these out in a way that is meaningful, and for collectors, of course, on vinyl. It's special. So I mean, we had our bootleg series a while ago, but it was definitely nothing like this, where it's just really being done right with great artwork. And because, as I said, people appreciate holding on to things, and looking at art, and that's a big part of it. And we still have a lot of fans that are into that and value that. So.
Right, of course. That's amazing. And on behalf of everyone here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, I want to thank you so much for doing this with us. And, since you're being called off the bus at this moment, I wish you luck at the gig.
Thanks so much.